Welcome to my presentation on the modification of the counting efficiency of the TSI 3750 CPC by internal temperature changes. My name is Martin Viertz, I'm with Nanios Particle Solutions. We build miniature electrical nanoparticle detectors which we need to calibrate somehow, and so we use reference devices. In our case those are TSI instruments, DMA and CPC. And for the CPC we've chosen this 3750 model because it's a full flow CPC, which means you get the best counting statistics and you get the best robustness because there's no sheath flow and things like this. So our instruments can measure down to maybe 5 to 10 nanometers, and that means that for the smallest particle diameters we have to take the counting efficiency of the CPC into account. So I used silver and sodium chloride particles, which I generated in a tube furnace. So I selected them by DMA, and then at the exit of the DMA the flow was split into a electrometer, which in this case is a modified automotive protector, and into the CPC that I was trying to test here. That's a standard setup for measuring CPC counting efficiencies. Then I took the standard condenser and saturator temperatures for the 3750, which are 18 and 39 degrees C, and modified those in 2 degree steps by lowering the condenser temperature and increasing the saturator temperature to 1641, 1443 and 1245 degrees C. The last value pair is for silver particles only. I didn't do this for the sodium chloride. I always set the optics temperature 1 degree higher than the saturated temperature to avoid condensation in the optics. For the first experiment run, which was with the sodium chloride particles, I noticed that the electrometer had some inlet losses, which I tried to correct, but I'm not 100% sure how well that worked. For the silver experiment, I changed the inlet design of the electrometer so that this was no longer necessary. Here are the results. You can see that there are clear differences between the open symbols for the sodium chloride and the filled symbols for the silver particles. You can also see that for the different temperature settings there are also clear differences between the D50 cutoffs that you can see here. So this kind of large difference between sodium chloride and silver has been seen in previous studies for full flow CPCs of TSI, so I think that's probably right. So to discuss and conclude, you have seen that by a simple adjustment, just a computer command to the 3750, you can change the D50 cutoff quite substantially, in this case from 11 to 8 nanometers for sodium chloride, with only 4 degree temperature change, and for silver actually even more. The D50 went from 6.6 to down about 3.4 nanometers in this case, so half the diameter of the standard setting. I do have to admit that the experiment was clearly non-ideal. The long DMA causes diffusion broadening, and those inlet losses in the electrometer for the sodium chloride are not great, but it clearly shows what is possible with this 3750. From my point of view, it's interesting because you can reach the performance of more expensive and more complex CPCs with this simple 3750, and at the same time you have better counting statistics. So for our purpose of instrument calibration, this is really a nice change that we can make. I do have to warn anyone who wants to repeat this. I asked TSI up to which temperatures I could run the CPC, but they did not comment on this. So I don't know if there are any temperature limits that one should not exceed. Okay, so if anyone wants to repeat it despite this warning, then I can give you my LabVIEW VI if you would like it, and then you could try this yourself. Just send me an email to the address below here. If anyone is interested in similar measurements for older CPCs, here's a list of a few publications on this topic. Thank you for your attention.